Welcome to Write Your Narrative, your weekly go-to Sweetheart podcast.
There's just so much culture and life in South Florida.
Art helped me find myself.
I can sit here and complain that Miami doesn't have any of these things, or I can find a way to do it.
This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
We have changed the conversation. You're in the right place. Where are we today? We are in the Thrive District in Fort Lauderdale. And my guest today is my good buddy, Serge. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Pascal.
You're doing well, but you're working hard. Yeah. You are working hard.
It's fun, man. It's not work. It really isn't.
It really isn't?
I tell people I color and draw for a living. And I've been doing that since I was a kid in the back of the classroom. So,
what were you in the back of the classroom?
Because I was the kid who wanted to draw and color in the back, and I get caught by the teacher, but I got caught many times.
Well, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. So
no.
Especially when you are right now, when you are sitting right now, and you've done so much since we met a few years ago when I bought one of the first Winwood teddy bear thing.
Yeah. Listen, thank you, first of all, for coming to the studio, hanging out, doing this podcast. I think you've been extremely successul.
Thank you very much.
And you're giving us a voice. And you did that back then.
Trying, yes. I'm really trying.
You did that back then. Not only did you give us a voice with Talking Off the Wall, but you've always supported everybody in South Florida. And you're one of my big supporters. You know, you've always bought pieces.
Thanks.
Flamingos.
Oh, yeah.
Watches. Whatever.
That's right. Watches, yes. That watch.
The Winwood Bear.
The little Winwood Bear thing, yes. So, yeah, we go back about 10 years some ago, yes.
I'll tell you what, for me, this is full circle because when I saw Talking Off the Wall, and I was ingraining myself in the community back then to be exposed, right?
Yeah.
When I saw Talking Off the Wall, I was like, man, I really want to be in this magazine. But I was nobody back then. I wasn't interesting enough, I should say, to be in Talking Off the Wall. But now we're on Write Your Narrative.
Well, unfortunately, we only had 18 issues of that Talking Off the Wall, which was fine. That was two long years, two fun years. And with this podcast, I'm trying to go full circle again and go back to the people that we met throughout these years. Some people, Golden was not around at the time. There's so many other people who were not around at the time. And some people are gone.
Right.
Unfortunately, we lost a few months ago, we lost Libo, who was on the first year anniversary of the magazine. And Myra is gone also, and some other people. You know, life happens in 12 years.
It's life. Libo was one of those inspirations for me as when I moved to Miami. And I was in my early 20s, maybe 19, 20 years old. And I remember seeing Leo's work all through downtown Miami. And it was the first time that I saw an illustrator that didn't have anything to do with graffiti, because I grew up around graffiti.
Yeah.
And that I love that. I was just terrible at it. So I'm the character guy. But Libo, to me, was the first one that I saw that did what I did, but he just did it on walls. And I was like, how does he do that? Like, it's just so amazing. And nobody was touching it. Nobody was vandalizing it.
Oh, of course not. He was so well respected.
He was well respected. And I got to know him in his later years, and he was salt of the earth type of person.
He was.
So we lost somebody extremely big in our community and in art. And a lot of guys that you've had in the podcast have been inspired by him, or he touched them in one way or another.
He did, yes. Yeah, we had a long conversation with Carlos Solano, was just definitely one of his, Libo was his mentor.
Carlos was close. I think Alvin did some stuff.
Also.
But yeah, Libo touched a lot of us, and he doesn't even know it. He didn't even know it, you know? And just what I got to know in his later years, and it wasn't very long. We just had some connections, and we came together in a few events, and we started chopping it up. And, I realized right then and there what good of a person he was, just from those conversations that I had with him.
Yeah, so talking about that whole big community, you really kind of started and then took it to a next level. And we are very, very fortunate here in Florida to have some big events throughout the year, with the F1 that started 2 years ago, through the music conference and all those things. and you've been part of it 100%. I mean, you started somehow, I guess, at the Hard Rock with the Jason...
with the Dolphins.
With the Dolphins Foundations, yes.
Yeah. South Florida has embraced art from the small business owner all the way now to a corporate, where they've realized that art really brings people together, and it's a component they want to have in their event. I don't believe I can do what I do anywhere else than I can the way South Florida is. And there's been a lot of people that have led the way that have made it possible for other people to have an open mind on that. For me, when I decided to leave the agency world, I did that for about 15 years. And I never stopped painting. I never stopped drawing. I never stopped doodling. And when I was ready to leave, it was a decision that my wife and I made for about 2 years. And finally, I just got to the point where I just couldn't take it. But I had so much confidence in my ability as a designer and a creative that if it didn't work out as an artist, I can always go back to the corporate world. So I wasn't scared to make the jump. Now, that doesn't mean it wasn't scary.
Of course.
To not have a paycheck every 2 weeks and insurance and whatnot.
Family, yes. Definitely.
Especially when you have a family, a mortgage, and all that stuff. So what I did is I used my connections with different brands that I had and met through the agency world. I took everything that I learned through the agency world and I apply it to the business of art. And I think if artists think of their work as a business, they can be more successful.
Yeah. Well, you are definitely one of the artists who's really, really business savvy. That we always said that just so many artists don't really know how to handle not even just the social media things.
Yeah, I think it's because
you're on top of it.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's because I had the experience of the corporate world. I didn't have, a lot of people, I should say, didn't have the experience of being in a corporate environment because they've been artists from day one. And that's extremely incredible and extremely difficult to do, to be an artist in your early 20s and keep it going. And I know a lot of artists that I love that have done that. So I think I just applied what I learned in the corporate world to the art world. And again, if artists do that, I think they can be more successful at it. And when I put together all these connections that I have in the networking, and when we bring art to an event, all the artists that I invite that are part of it, I always try to drop a little bit of knowledge on, hey, if you do this way, it's never about their art, because
no, it's not.
They are who they are and they're incredible at it. And I'm working with them because they're the best of the best. I never want to be the best artist in the room. I want everybody else to be better than me. I've got my place and I want to learn from everybody else, but I know that I do have knowledge in the business world, and I try to drop those little nuggets in every single person I meet, because if I can do it, everybody can do it. And there's enough for that.
There's enough for everybody, yes.
Absolutely.
And all that business that we have, we're very fortunate to have here in South Florida. I mean, this brings billions of dollars. I mean, the F1 is the biggest thing now this past 2 years. And fortunately, I mean, they've been bringing everybody on board.
Yeah, I've been doing this full time now for almost 10 years as an artist, as a working artist. And again, going back to making my connections and my networks, one of the first people I reached out to, or businesses I reached out to, were the Miami Dolphins, because I had connections prior to even my agency world.
Yes.
When I tried to be a graphic designer full time for myself, I designed the Miami Dolphin cheerleader calendars for 2 or 3 years. And then I went in the agency world, and I still had some of those relationships and I nourished them. So when I went off on my own, that was one of the first calls I made.
That's what you say. You nurse them, and this is key. You got to massage those things. You got to keep those connections going and alive.
Absolutely. I think as artists, for the most part, we like to stay to our own. Like, we don't branch out.
Yes.
And I think we need to learn to branch out, and just within you'd realize it's 6 degrees of separation. Just within your network.
That's all it is.
You're connected to somebody that knows somebody. So if you just put it out there and you're working hard and doing it, it can turn into something. So going back, so I brought the idea of bringing art to the games on the plaza, painting live, doing that sort of thing to the Dolphins. And at the time, Jessica Goldman had just painted the stadium inside. Yes. And to me, that was a huge leap forward in our community in having Jessica curate that project and bringing art. It was massive, you know.
Absolutely massive.
Some people I know were upset because there wasn't a lot of Miami people on that. Oh. But also, you know, she brought the best of the best, and there's some of the most amazing people on that project. But what that did is that opened up the door for artists like me and artists like whoever they work with to the corporation be open to say, hey, we could do this. So I think it was a combination of my networking and also good timing, because they had just done that a year previous, and they were open to having more art. So Jessica Goldman did a big, huge favor to the community by having that project going.
Yeah, this was definitely a major project, and she really brought the top of the best artists. I mean,
you've got Tristan Eden in there, London Police. I mean, amongst a bunch of amazing artists. And not only did that open up the world for us with art, but sports in general, which I love to be a part of. I'm a huge Dolphin fan. I'm a huge NFL guy. I love football. My family loves football. My son plays football. That allowed also the sports world. Miami Dolphins did something with that. Stephen Ross and Tom Garfinkel being open to the idea of having Goldman Global Arts come in and doing all the murals in there. They put the Miami Dolphins and the NFL, everybody opened up and said, well, hey, if Miami's doing it, why can't we do it?
True.
And now you see projects everywhere. Jacksonville. I mean, every NFL city has murals. They incorporate art some way. So it's what we did here has spewed out onto the rest of the NFL, if you will. And then the NFL's the big dog. Then you've got the Marlins, you've got the baseball, soccer.
In their stadium, yes.
You know, they all do that. You know, Quake does a lot with them, and there's the Miami Heat. And I mean, it's just, it's a beautiful time to be working if you're open to it, right? And I say that because a lot of artists want to stick to their own, this is what I want to do, and I'm an artist, but you got to live a little bit.
Oh, definitely.
So to me,
talk about that, yes.
To me, I'd rather do a corporate project than work at McDonald's and be an artist.
Seriously?
I'd rather be a corporate artist. Of course. You know, doing what I love to do, and then, you know, one project will let me hang out for a week or two in the studio.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's what we mentioned with Carlos. I mean, the canvas work, it's a beautiful thing. It's your artist side that can speak. But at the end of the day, it's hard to sell a canvas.
Correct. It's easier to sell a big mural,
absolutely,
than it is to sell a small canvas.
Yeah.
A canvas, I tell people this all the time in collectors. If it speaks to you, then buy it. Like there's something about, and you know this, because you support us, you buy so much stuff from us. Thank you. But if it speaks to you, just buy it. It doesn't have to speak to anybody else.
No, it doesn't.
A lot of people also, a lot of collectors, a lot of just, enthusiasts, the art enthusiasts, they think they're going to go to some Marshalls or Walmart or something and buy some framed art, and they don't realize that.
Don't buy any Target art. Please.
They don't realize that there's value in what you're buying. Not only are you helping your community, that artist is growing, that piece is valuable. That piece has
something so unique.
And it's unique, exactly.
It's just so unique. It's not mass produced or anything. It's just so unique. And it's most of the time it's kind of related to the people directly, or to your community, or to the whatever we paint, all these vibrant colors down here in Florida. It really, really represents Florida.
I was a collector of art before I decided to go full on. So I always went around Wynwood. I ran into shows. Whatever I could buy, I would buy, whether it was a print or whatever. I bought a lot of stuff online. My wife loves the art too, so we collect. We stopped collecting for a while, but I started collecting a couple years ago, again, when business was good.
Yeah. when the kids are growing, you have to buy it. Yeah, you have a little more money to spare, but that's the way it is.
Kids are
it is.
Yes.
That's the way it is.
And for me, the studio work has also grown because of the murals, because people see some of the collaborations that I've done with some brands. So that is also an introduction to an enthusiast, right? Where they're like, oh my God, Serge did this Psycho Bunny collection. And then they start looking into you and then they see, oh my God, he's got beautiful studio work. Let me put that in my house. So it goes hand in hand. And I think any artist will tell you that the more they see your work in the streets, whether you're a graffiti artist, a street artist, a pop artist, whatever it is, the murals to me are the outside murals is like the major gallery, right? Like that's the biggest gallery in the world. Everybody's always seeing it. You've documented a lot of that. So to me, when I do the murals, I see engagement in my social media. I see my store, my website go up and people are interested. And I've had a good run where I do a show every year or two. Every couple of years is where I'm doing a show.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been there at every single one of them. Thank you.
A few, quite few. But this is always so interesting. And like I was talking to your friend earlier, I mean, this is just like, we have such a tight community here that we all support each other. And this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. Like right here, we're in a studio. It's 4 of you working in the studio. It's you, remote, who just walked in the studio. Chink and Carlos, and just you are creating all together. You exchanging ideas. I'm sure you are.
So like
and keeping your own space at the same time.
Oh my God, yeah. The studio's great. So it's 712 Studio. We named it that because it's part of the address. When I met Remote, and I met Remote because of Yuval, which you had on the podcast. So I thank Yuval for that. I've thanked him many times actually. Remote's one of my closest art friends. And he's a huge inspiration, He's very tedious. He's very like, he'll walk by and I'm painting something. He's like, you're not going to leave that like that, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I was thinking about it. He goes, nah, maybe you should do this, or maybe you should tighten up that line. So he keeps me in check. Chink is one of my favorite artists. He's become one of my favorite artists. The guy's work ethic is unbelievable. He's talented as hell. He's a hard worker, and Carlos, to me, I see myself in Carlos a lot. He was in the corporate world. He was a designer. I remember Carlos always asking me, yo, how do I go out on my own? And, for him, it happened because of COVID. He had no choice but to start. And I remember telling Carlos, listen, if you can make it as an artist during COVID, you're going to make it no matter what. And him and I always have conversations, and he applies a lot of what he learned as well in the corporate world. And he's become really successful in his own space. I joke with him all the time. I say, you're outgrowing that space in the back of the studio.
He's in the corner.
He goes, you're kicking me out? I go, no, but I want you to grow. I want you to grow. Maybe the studio's not big enough for you anymore. But no, having the 4 of us here as a collective, it's almost like the low-hanging fruit, if you will, for when we all do a project. For example, for me, if I'm doing a project and I need help, those are the guys that I'm going to first.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
If it's bigger than that, we go outside of the studio, and I've got, Nate and Golden. And
I was just going to say, who's missing in the studio? Nate.
Yeah, Nate.
Ivan is missing. Golden. Yeah. You guys should have a whole freaking warehouse, and
listen, I'm not going to lie to you, Scott. I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of what has happened to me in my career, I feel like was manifested, but it wasn't manifested just because, I want to do that. No, it was manifested because I'm putting the energy out there and I'm working towards it. So I believe in that. I believe in you being a good person and putting stuff out there. For the longest time, Remote knows this, for the longest time has been wanting to buy a warehouse, something where I can make a big studio, a big collaboration, where I could just have a bunch of artists around me. We can collaborate on things, and I can have affordable studio space for them, and this whole thing.
I can see that.
Really being collaborative is for me. I used to be a creative director in the agency world, right? I had the ideas, but I wasn't the only one that's putting everything together. You need a team, and I applied that to the world of art, and I still want to do that. Like, I think buying a building would be cool.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, well, you are the driving force in this 712 studio.
We got to get you a shirt.
Yeah, you're going to get me a shirt, definitely.
Once you've interviewed Chink and Remote, and they've got their own podcast, we'll get you a shirt.
Oh,
You got to go through the whole studio first. We're a collaborative effort over here.
yeah, but that's the one thing. That's you guys are so different one from the other. What you do. You have that Miami, South Florida vibe, but everybody has their own. First, you have your own roots.
Oh, yeah.
Each every one of you. And then I need to talk to Remote about how he went from the graffiti into his more abstract work. And then, of course, Chink, we need to talk about the trend because he's the only one in the studio, as far as I know, who's painting on trains and everything. So I need to hear all these dirty stuff.
He's not painting on trains. I don't know who told you that.
Train? Oh, I got videos.
Yeah, he loves graffiti, man. He's still in there. But, as far as the studio is concerned, yeah, we do all have our different styles. Chink and I being in the studio, we've had conversations where, like, we kind of rub off on each other.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because our styles are a little bit similar, but so far apart, it's really weird to say that.
Yeah.
He inspires me a lot, like to the point where I think about something and I'm like, I realize that I thought about it because Chink had already done it. And I'm like, oh my God, I was about to copy Chink just from being in the studio. But
well, yeah, maybe about the line that are so clean that both of you, your work is so clean. Carlos has a much thicker line than you guys.
Carlos is perfect for corporate, actually.
Yeah,
his work. I heard him on the podcast, and he said I agreed with him in that where I like my work to just make people smile.
Exactly.
I said this a long time
He's
ago.
such a positive guy. It's just like, and he's got his radiant. I mean, his vibes are so like cool.
He puts it out there. He puts it out there. It's part of his energy. It's part of his vibe,
and that's beautiful.
For me, my work has always wanted to make people smile. My studio work. And I've said this before, I've said it a long time ago, my artwork just looks cool behind somebody's couch. Like, it doesn't have to be meaningful. It doesn't.
It does. You just have to match the pillows with it. And that's it. It's very easy.
That's it. So
it's very easy.
So if that makes somebody happy, I'm happy with that. My art doesn't have to have meaning behind it. Although I will say, my last show that I did at Moonlight Art Compound, I put more into it. I thought about it more. One of the pieces that's hanging here, his flowers, was an idea that I had based on a friend of mine, Omari, who's constantly saying, as men, we don't give ourselves flowers. We don't give each other flowers until we're dead.
True. It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. And that means, congratulate them on their successes. Let them know that they've done well. So he's inspired me as well. And that painting right there was inspired by him. And it's one of my favorite. And that show had a lot of meaning. I started thinking a little bit deeper than just, something cool behind the couch. But I start off with, it has to be cool behind the couch. It
has to be cool behind the couch. Like all these flamingos that you've been doing for years.
I have.
You just told me that no more flamingos now?
No. I'm still working on the vinyl toys, that sort of thing. But I'm actually going to retire Mingo for a little bit.
All right.
That's the flamingo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to retire him because I realized he became a crutch to me in everything that I did.
That's what you're saying.
And I think a lot of artists have found themselves in that place. Some are better at doing it than I am, but I think I'm going to retire him and push myself creatively a little more. I don't just want to put him in everything that I do. And that was the problem. I would start off with doing that. And I want to grow as an artist and show everybody everything else I can do. And I've had a really good, successful year where I don't think I've painted him all year. I might have retouched him. I might have gone to an old mural to retouch him, but I haven't painted him. So I'm going to retire him for a little bit. Unless somebody specifically asks me, hey, commission and say, hey, can we get Mingo? This is what we really want. I'm not going to shy away from that, of course.
No.
But I'm starting off without putting him in my design. I just did a design for a whiskey label that I can't mention yet until it comes out for a whiskey brand. And they wanted the Miami vibe and all that stuff. And it would have been easy to throw Mingo in there.
It would have been, yes.
And I didn't do it. I go, I'm not going to do it. And then Chink walks by, looks at it and goes, God, that's pretty badass. I was like, man.
All right.
I go, I can draw, right? Yeah, I got
You can still be Serge
Yeah, absolutely.
without being recognized by the flamingo, by your,
So for me,
the one-trick pony. So.
correct. For me, the hands are a big deal.
Yeah.
I like drawing hands. A lot of the stuff I did in the very beginning, I did a lot with hands. I had the breakthrough piece, which it was a whole arm breaking through the wall, holding a spray can. I had Spread Love, which you're familiar with, the hand with the heart.
Correct, yes.
That was like the second or third mural I did down in Wynwood. And it was very meaningful for me because I was selected along with a bunch of other talented artists to be a part of an initiative called Ford Warriors in Pink. And it was an initiative for breast cancer awareness within the Hispanic community. At the same time that happened, my wife got diagnosed with breast cancer. She's fine. She's thriving.
Yes.
She's an amazing individual. Outside of that, she was always strong. This just made her stronger. But she went through it. So the Ford Warriors in Pink project was an initiative for breast cancer in the Hispanic community. And they were having all these people women submit reasons why they need to be checked out with mammograms and whatnot.
Correct, yes.
And they were giving us I think you remember this. They were painting live, like Didi was one of them. Didi was painting live, and it was live nationwide on the website.
Yes, I believe so.
And people can submit reasons why they would be checked out. My reason that I received from some random individual somewhere in the country was my family, my life. Mi familia, mi vida. So when I drew my little character, I drew like a little baby monkey with a monkey mom, and she was holding the baby, and she had her hand up, squeezing a heart. And when I put it up on the wall, the dimensions didn't work. It didn't look good. And when I sat there looking at it, the message was really the hand and the heart. So I cut everything out of it, and I just made the hand
bigger. Yeah,
made the hand really bigger, and that was the focus. So I did that for my wife, and it was a breast cancer initiative. And ever since then, I use it as just, it's turned into more about love and passion and being patient with people, like just spreading awareness of love overall for each other. And I include it in all of my shows. And I've been painting it for, more than 10 years. It's been forever. No matter what I do in my shows, I always put that hand in the heart, like a couple pieces of it. And that was one of the first pieces that I painted. It was meaningful. It's weird how everything happened and how the universe put all that together.
It does, yes.
And a year ago, Carlos put me on with the Panthers to do the jersey, and he put me on for breast cancer awareness of it. So I designed this whole pink, cool-looking Panthers jersey, and I put the Spread Love on the patch. So it's pretty cool to see all the players
yes,
going around wearing that.
Yeah, I remember seeing a picture of that, yes.
It was pretty cool. Sorry about that.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. Well, we are who we are, and just like we can get away from life. Art makes people, this is who you are as a true person, as you're just genuine. You're just right there. You just know there's nothing to hide.
Mm-mm.
Why would you hide something? Yes.
No.
So that's So that's pretty cool.
It is. It's cool. But listen, we're in a great space, both in this studio and in South Florida, and artists are thriving.
Yes.
And if they're not, there's enough of us out there that anybody can walk up to us and start talking to us. And how do you get here? What do you do here? Everybody that I know is willing to give advice on what to do.
That's cool that you can, yes. Anybody who's listening to the podcast can reach out to you through social media. And
absolutely.
Things. There's so many ways now with the social media to reach out to anybody. And nobody's just like big shots. Really.
No, listen, I have my guys I've reached out to.
Of course.
Of
course. We can talk to each other. And this is something I recorded a podcast an hour ago with Tony Firpi, who's a photographer, a good friend of all of us. We all know each other. And there's a bunch of just real people, real people who are doing a real thing for their community, for each other. And we are looking at for each other's back, and that's just beautiful.
It is. Something that I heard on your podcast was Ivan. And Ivan, I've always been a fan of Ivan.
Oh, well.
Me too. I remember when him and I painted walls together next to each other, and I found out he was 24 years old or 22 or whatever it was. And I go, Ivan, do not stop. Just keep going, bro. Like, just keep doing your thing. But he inspired me on your podcast. Excuse me, where he said he started the foundation, the scholarship.
The scholarship. This is absolutely amazing. This is just brilliant, and this is true. This is just a given person. And once again, he started with Yuval at your space studio. It all goes
full circle.
It's totally full circle. All these people, Sandro doing photographies and everything, knowing everybody.
Listen, Sandro's podcast was pretty good.
It was good too, of course.
It was good. He didn't think he had anything to say, but that guy's got a lot to say.
That's the first thing he told me. He said, I have nothing to say. I said, no, of course you have shit to say. And that's fine. You want to talk about shit? Let's talk about
Let's
shit.
talk about shit.
Yeah. Who's listening to the podcast right now? When I get maybe 200 listeners or whatever.
Listen, it doesn't matter.
It does
you
not
just have to inspire one person to do something great, and you've done your job, Pascal. And I think you've done that over the years.
Yeah, and I want to keep on pushing it. So about this past 2 years, I was trying to figure out how to bring something back after the Talking of the Wall. And one of these days, I'm going to have to explain. Maybe there's some listeners who still don't know who Talking of the Wall is or what Talking of the Wall was. So with Nate, with Louis Valle, we do that. Where Are They Now? 10 years later, this was the origin of the podcast. And with Didi also. So, but then in those 10 years plus, since I stopped the magazine, you came up to the scene. Golden came up to the scene. There was no Golden. I mean, he would have been on the cover of the magazine long ago now, but...
Talk about another Salt of the Earth.
Just like, yeah.
Golden's amazing. He's one of my favorite. I think he's everybody's favorite.
Yes. And he's just such a real... He's just the dude. He's the dude.
His
name is got fucking golden heart.
He does. He's a good dude. He's a good spirit. He's another hard worker. He's in my circle. Whenever I have something like, Golden, I need your help. Let's go. He's like, what time, baby? Let's do it. What time?
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Yes. As someone you can have on the phone. It's just like, okay. And you see that project he did with that kids' playground?
Yes. That was full circle for him.
Wow.
That was full circle for him. He's another incredible artist.
Yes.
And he's an incredible soul. So he's a good guy.
He's a good soul too. He's a good soul too.
He's incredible. All these guys that I've worked with, all these guys that, because of the F1s of the world and the Dolphins and everything, I get excited for putting all my friends on. And, I put them on because they're talented. If they suck,
they are talented.
I would have put them on. They make me look good, Pascal.
Yes, no, but definitely we have a pool of amazing, talented artists down here. Amazing talented.
And listen, I would say if you're a beginning artist, if you're starting, if there's something you like, something you don't like, reach out to anybody. Reach out to your favorite artist. You'd be surprised 9 times out of 10, they're just as normal as you. And they might have been in your position 2 years before that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, most likely they were in a position at some point because
we've all been there.
Yes.
For F1, the first year, I remember I had this project with these helmets that I needed to do. And I get a DM from JC. And JC's like, hey, how can I get down with F1? And again, just timing. I needed that. I needed somebody. I looked at his Instagram. I looked at all his work. He had like random work, right? Like, your Instagram has to be manicured a little bit. For some
has to be cured,
and he was all over the place, but I saw things and hints in his profile that I was like, yo, this dude's talented. He's a tradesman. He's an artist. He's going to help me. And 3 years later, we're still doing some cool stuff, and all because of a DM, that he reached out to me. He wasn't afraid. You shouldn't be afraid.
Why would you be afraid? Yes. We're just regular people. So, Serge, thank you so much for that little conversation.
Oh, thank you.
I like to keep the podcast within 30-some minutes. Whatever.
Good format.
Yes, I think it's a good format. We keep the business in a family here.
Listen, but again, right, that's your low-hanging fruit. That's your network.
It is.
And it's going to grow from there. Like anything else. I think we need to learn to be patient
Very patient.
That's what I've learned over the years. I think, like my son, he's 15, my daughter's 13. I think their generation and those people in the 20s, I think they think that everything is right away, like it happens now. They live in an on-demand world.
They are.
You know this. And they're not patient to see their work flourish. They want it now. If I could give advice, just keep working. Do you, be patient, and reach out within your network. You never know who has the connection to what you want to do.
Yeah, and don't be discouraged by a comment on social media, because everybody's looking at those things. Everybody's checking their phone. Oh, how many likes do I have today? How many likes?
It's hard.
It's hard. And we have to do the work, because it's,
and
fortunately and unfortunately, this is the world that we live in.
Right. And don't be discouraged in general. I remember, and we'll wrap it up with this. I remember driving through Wynwood with canvas art in my trunk and just walking up to different galleries. And some guys that I work with now that were running galleries turned me down. They're like, hey, where have you shown before? Nowhere. Nobody's giving me a shot.
Yeah.
And now I'm friends with those guys, and they're artists, and they were running a gallery and think, you actually had one of them on the podcast.
I'm sure. And I'm going to have more.
Just do it.
I'm telling you, I got a whole list. I don't know when I'm going to stop that podcast, because I got a list for years.
But that's good. It's content.
It's content.
That's it.
Yes.
Good.
And so this is season 2 right now, until Art Basel, which is going to be the end of season 2. I got only 16 episodes, which is really nothing.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Nothing.
You've done it. It's there. Once that one guest shows up that just kind of pushes the podcast forward, all the other content you've provided is going to be gold, and it's going to push you forward.
So
listen, at the end of the day, you just got to do it. And you've done that. I've done that. We're just doing it, and we're learning along the way. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly, and it's another way to keep that South Florida art community that as vibrant as it is, alive, and then to document what's going on once again. And
Absolutely.
We need to keep this momentum. People have started documenting the street art scene years ago. The Martha Coopers and everybody at the time. So this is the new media.
It is.
Let's go with it. Let's try with it.
Thank you for having me, Pascal.
So thank you so much, Serge, for your time, your friendship, and all these years. All right, guys. So
Thank you.
Don't hesitate to reach out to any artist that you want to reach out to. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a great day. Thanks.